To understand the basics of travel insurance, we have to understand what it is. Travel insurance is a specialized type of coverage designed to offer financial protection to travelers against the risk associated with domestic and international travel. To put it plainly, it's a comprehensive package of insurance benefits designed for travelers. Benefits might include coverage for trip cancellation, interruption, and delays, coverage for the cost of medical emergencies and evacuations, while also covering the cost of lost, stolen, or damaged personal items, up to, of course, a certain amount. When you buy a plan, you get the benefits we just mentioned, all while receiving 24-hour emergency assistance. Once you get the basics down, which we'll cover in this short video, you'll feel like you're ready to start shopping. How much does travel insurance cost? To use these services, you'll pay a per trip or annual fee. Typically, a single trip travel insurance plan costs between 6% to 12% of your overall trip costs. How much it costs will depend on which benefits you buy and the benefit limits that you choose. For example, if you buy cancel for any reason travel insurance, you'll pay around 40% more in premium than with the basic trip cancellation plan. But what do you get in return? The ability to cancel your trip for any reason under the sun. The types of travel insurance. There are 4 main types of travel insurance. Which type you buy will depend on you and where you're going. First up is visitor's insurance. Visitor's insurance is health insurance for travelers who are coming to the United States, and it can be used for short or long-term travel and is designed specifically for the U.S. healthcare system. Second on the list is travel medical insurance. This is very similar to visitor's insurance because it provides health insurance for international travelers. However, it is designed for travel outside of the United States and can be used by U.S. residents traveling abroad. Schengen visa insurance is a type of travel medical insurance with some benefits necessary for visitors to the Schengen area. Both visitors and travelers medical insurance have the option for trip interruption and baggage coverage, but they do not offer benefits like trip cancellation or cancel for any reason. These types of travel insurance plans are more designed for medical coverage for travelers and can be bought before or during your trip. However, they do take at least 1 day to become effective and aren't designed to cover something that's already happened. So be sure to keep that in mind. The third type of travel insurance are travel protection plans. These types of plans are known as trip cancellation or cancel for any reason. We at G1G call them our flex plans. They're designed to be bought before your trip and cover your trip belongings and yourself against medical emergencies. These plans tend to be more expensive than visitors and travel medical because they cover cancellation. However, they offer more protection in the event you have to cancel your trip and risk losing thousands of dollars in prepaid expenses. The fourth and final type are evacuation memberships. These types of plans cover you if you need emergency medical or political evacuation. If you have a heart attack abroad, they will transport you home whether it is determined medically necessary or preferential. Additionally, they will bring you home in the event you're somewhere that is experiencing the effects of political unrest, terrorism, or a natural disaster. Do visitors, travel medical, and trip cancellation plans cover this as well? Yes, but there are often stricter requirements. People who purchase these types of plans are often frequent travelers. How and when to buy travel insurance? Travel insurance should be bought before your trip. But there are visitors and travel medical plans that provide medical coverage if you forgot to purchase before traveling. Most trip protection plans require you to buy it at least 24 hours before trip departure. You can buy travel insurance from a broker, travel agent, online travel agency, or online comparison site like G1G. You'll sometimes find that you have travel insurance through your credit card, hotel, cruise line, or airline. But coverage is often limited and has many caveats. Buying travel insurance from a trusted broker, travel professional, comparison site, or directly from the insurance company is our recommendation. Think about every little thing that affects travel. It can happen when you're months out from your trip, during departure, or in the midst of your adventure. You could experience flight delays, a stolen passport, natural disasters, and of course, a medical emergency. Travel insurance is the buffer that's there during each of these moments. So the big job of travel insurance is to cover the mishaps that can occur and lessen the financial burden you'd otherwise bear. And that can happen at several different moments in time. And in this video, we'll explain how to use your travel insurance before, during, and after your trip. Let's first go over how to use travel insurance before your trip. Coverage for trip cancellation becomes effective the day after you buy your plan. Each plan will have what's called covered reasons, unless you buy a cancel for any reason plan, which would cover your cancellations for any reason. These covered reasons are the mishaps your plan will cover that cause you to cancel, giving you the chance to recoup lost and prepaid expenses. Let's think about it like this. You bought your travel insurance plan when you booked your trip 6 months out, or the week of your trip. Bam! You get the flu. Your doctor says you can't travel. You cancel your trip and file a claim. Of course, there are a multitude of reasons covered by each individual plan, and some plans will have more covered reasons for trip cancellation than others. It's important to check that out before you buy. Step 1. Before you file your claim, you'll need to notify your tour operator, travel supplier, or airline that you are in fact canceling. Step 2. After you do this, you would gather any necessary documentation to prove what was lost and why you lost it. That'll be any receipts that show what you paid and what isn't refundable. You'll also want to include things like doctor's notes. Step 3, file your claim. In some cases, you might not have all the necessary documentation on hand. And if that's the case, you can initiate the claim right after you cancel your trip. Then you'll gather the information. Now, cancel for any reason travel insurance plans are a little different, but very similar to what we outlined before. The only difference with CFAR plans is that you need to cancel your trip 48 hours or more before you were scheduled to leave. You do this by notifying your tour operator or travel supplier, not the insurance company. Then you would go through the steps we previously outlined. Once you start your trip, there are several benefits that might come into play. However, most of them will reimburse you after your trip. The times you'll use your travel insurance during your trip are mostly going to be to use non-insurance services, 24-hour emergency assistance. For example, if you have to be admitted to the hospital for emergency medical care, you'll want to call your 24-hour emergency assistance service. Oftentimes, in cases where you're experiencing a severe emergency that can get pretty costly, the emergency assistance company will help set up the direct billing to ensure the hospital that the bill will be paid in full. You would also contact your emergency assistance company if you need an emergency medical or non-medical evacuation. They would handle making the arrangements and tell you exactly where you need to be and when. Additionally, your emergency assistance company will help arrange bringing your body back home if you die abroad. This is one of the heaviest benefits we have to talk about, but if you die while on your trip, your plan's emergency assistance services will handle the logistics of preparing and bringing your body home for the services. This is one reason why it's always important to let a family member or friend know the details of your trip and insurances. Finally, you would contact your emergency assistance company if your passport, visa, money, or credit cards were stolen while traveling. How to use travel insurance after your trip. Travel insurance typically works on a reimbursement basis, unless you run into something catastrophic that will require direct billing. In most cases, you won't file a claim until you get home. That's what we're talking about in this section. If your baggage or personal items are lost, damaged, or stolen, you'll file a claim after your trip. Be sure to show proof of loss, and that'd be any receipts or photos you have, even a police report if your baggage was stolen. Sometimes, the airline loses our stuff for a few days, and if you buy a few things to hold you over, you should save the receipts for when you get home. Once you return back, file your claim showing what you lost and how long your baggage was delayed for. There are 3 other types of claims that you would file after you return home. Now, therefore, missed connections, travel delays, and trip interruption. If you had to book additional accommodations or buy extra meals for reasons covered by your plan, like a common carrier delay or a death in the family, you'd file a claim for reimbursement after you're returned. And finally, sometimes we get a cut or ear infection while traveling and it's pretty minor. In most cases, you'll pay out of pocket for care. Save the receipt and any other important paperwork. Bring it back home to file with your claim. We got a pro tip for you here. You can take photos of your receipts on your phone and save them to the cloud. That way, if you lose the paperwork, you have a backup. So there you have it, the basics of how to use your plan. Remember, if you aren't totally clear on whether you use your plan during or after your trip, don't hesitate to contact your emergency assistance hotline. There are a lot of travel insurance plans floating around in the industry, but there are really 4 main categories for travel insurance. That sounds pretty simple, right? Well, when explained properly, these different types should give you a clear idea when you'd want to consider a specific type of insurance. Trip cancellation and CFAR insurance. First, we'll go over trip cancellation or cancel for any reason travel insurance. These types of plans cover the traveler, their trip, and their things. The traveler is covered for medical emergencies and emergency evacuations. Their stuff is covered from theft, loss, or damage, and their trip is covered for interruptions, delays, and cancellations. Most importantly, all of this is designed to keep the traveler from experiencing severe financial losses from a comprehensive list of travel-related incidents. This type of coverage typically ranges from trips 1 to 120 days in length, but there are a few policies that allow up to 364 days of coverage. Travel medical insurance. Up next, we have travel medical insurance, which offers health insurance for international travelers and doesn't cover trip cancellations. It's designed to protect the traveler from the high cost of unexpected medical care and ensure the medical facilities and care practitioners receive compensation. It's typically popular among expatriates, international students, backpackers, and travelers looking to spend a significant amount of time outside of their home country. Plans usually cover emergency medical evacuations if you need to be transported to another hospital or country to receive adequate care. You might also see benefits like this being used if the country you are visiting has overwhelmed medical facilities and they need to free up space for their residents. In this event, you'd be medically transported to the nearest location that can treat you effectively. Plans can be purchased for as little as a few dollars a day and are designed for trips ranging from 1 to 364 days. The good thing is these plans can also be renewed. So if you're staying abroad for a long period of time, you can make it so that there's no lapse in your coverage. Visitors insurance. We also have visitors insurance, which is similar to travel medical, but is a unique type of insurance for people coming to the United States. As many of us know, healthcare in the US is the most expensive in the world. These plans cover against the cost of medical care and can come with some other important benefits as well. Inbound travelers coming for any length of time need to have medical coverage to avoid the possibility of footing a rather large bill. These policies can cover visiting parents from India or visiting grandparents from England, Croatia, China, or any of the other 192 plus countries in the world. Like travel medical, Plans can be purchased for just a few dollars a day and are designed for trips ranging from 1 to 364 days. The good thing is these plans can also be renewed. So if you're staying abroad for a longer period of time than expected, you can also make it so that there's no lapse in your coverage. Evacuation memberships. Finally, we have evacuation memberships. These types of travel insurance plans operate like a membership. They often cover emergency medical evacuations for times you might need to be transported to a hospital or medical facility because of a medical emergency. They also cover evacuations for things like political unrest, terrorism, or natural disasters. A few even offer ransom insurance. These memberships don't cover trip cancellation or the cost of medical care, but they are nice to have as a supplement to your travel, visitors, or travel medical insurance plans. These days, it seems like you can get travel insurance anywhere. But not all plans are created equal, and not every company is offering the best there is. Sure, some coverage is better than no coverage at all, but something tells me you're here because you want something great. You want to buy travel insurance at the right time. Like we mentioned before, travel insurance plans come with benefits that you're only eligible for if you buy within a certain window of time. Then you'll want to think about where you're buying from. And the product has a lot more touch points than many realize. Buying checkbox or checkout travel insurance. For example, let's take a look at checkbox coverage, as we like to call it here at G1G. It's akin to smartphone insurance and is presented when you check out with the airline, cruise line, or online travel company. Click this box and buy travel insurance for a small fee. Click yes, and you got coverage. But do you really? There are terms and conditions with travel insurance plans. And if you're buying at checkout, you're most likely not aware of what they are. You might have waived cancellation fees, but only get reimbursed with a future travel credit. You might have medical coverage, but only up to a limit much smaller than what's recommended, with no coverage for pre-existing conditions. Buying travel insurance from credit card companies. Another available and often oversimplified version of travel insurance is offered by credit card companies. It's usually only available if you book your entire trip using that card, and that is often only mentioned in the terms and conditions. And here's the thing, you might think your coverage is good enough, and maybe for some trips it is, but there is a lot that isn't offered at the forefront. Benefit limits are often much smaller than a typical travel insurance plan, and there is a lot in the fine print, like how long your trip can be. You have to have a pretty decent credit card in order to have this type of travel insurance, like the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Platinum card from American Express. But even then, the coverage has its limits, and you may find yourself needing travel protection if you use the coverage multiple times a year. For example, the coverage may be good for emergency medical evacuations if you're taking a trip that's less than 90 days, but if you're taking a trip longer than 90 days, you need a trip insurance plan with emergency medical evacuation coverage. The truth is, credit card coverage isn't all it's cracked up to be and doesn't stack up against third-party coverage. It's important to remember that we are critical of credit card and checkbox travel insurance coverage because we've seen it fail. But there are plenty of travelers who have had success with it, and we'd be lying if we told you otherwise. However, we get a lot of first-time buyers of trip protection because these types of coverage let them down, and they don't want that to happen again. What does that tell us? It doesn't fit for every type of travel. With that being said, let's get on to the most common and preferred ways to buy. Buying travel insurance from travel agents and insurance brokers. If you book your trip through a travel pro, you'll probably come across trip protection offered by them. Some people like to give their insurance agent a call for their expert weigh-in and recommendations of the best products they offer. They typically tend to offer maybe 1 to 4 providers and can match your coverage with the trip they've designed for you. Travel agents and insurance brokers do earn commission, but it doesn't and shouldn't change the pricing of your plans. The company typically pays the agent a specified percentage of your premium, but takes it out of the company's own profit. Buying travel insurance from travel suppliers and tour operators. Next up, we've got travel suppliers. Travel suppliers, tour operators, cruise lines, airlines, and many other kinds of travel companies offer travel insurance as a part of their package. These plans are often custom made for them. They often have good pricing, but one thing they cannot insure against is cancellation due to their own bankruptcy. You cannot insure against yourself. This is an example of the few places you'd be presented with checkbox insurance, and it highlights one of the shortcomings as well. Additionally, they often have low medical limits and are void of coverage for emergency evacuation. So if you're buying from travel suppliers, be sure to check their coverage and compare it to other plans. Buying travel insurance directly from travel insurance companies. All of the travel insurance plans you hear about through your travel agent, cruise line, airline, and the comparison sites are available directly through the company. But it will not change the pricing. Let us repeat, it will not give you a better price wherever you price your travel insurance. It has legally got to be the same price. If not, something fishy is going on. When you buy directly from the company, you're connected only through them. You get to know their service departments directly. However, what you don't get is free claims advocacy that can help you navigate the claims process with ease. Additionally, you only get a view of their plans, and this can silo you. Pre-existing conditions coverage may be limited company-wide. That doesn't mean there isn't another plan out there that's more suited for your needs. Buying travel insurance from comparison sites. Finally, let's talk about comparison sites. Comparison sites operate like an online travel agency. So think Expedia, TripAdvisor, etc., except they focus only on travel insurance instead of hotel and flight bookings. Now, this gives you access to the widest variety of plans from several different companies. Believe it or not, most of these comparison sites, although profiteers of competitor trip insurance, offer their own travel insurance products in the mix. And G1G is the only major travel insurance comparison site that doesn't sell its own custom insurance products. We think this keeps us honest. What travel insurance covers and what it doesn't. Imagine this. You got travel insurance for your upcoming trip, but now that you got your plan, you might have some questions about what exactly is covered. And you're not alone. As a matter of fact, some of the most seasoned travelers aren't 100% sure what is in their travel insurance policy and what it covers. When they file a claim for something they later realize wasn't covered, it's understandable that they feel cheated by the company. Honestly, we think travel insurers need to do a better job explaining what isn't covered. Now that's what we're here for. But we also think it's important to have an idea of how travel insurance works when you buy it. That's why we want to break down examples of what is and what isn't covered and how to find them in your policy. What travel insurance covers. Every insurance plan and benefit will have a list of covered reasons, which refer to a list of specific perils or events covered by your insurer. These types of perils could include injury, illness, death, official hurricane warnings, common carrier delays, theft, and many, many more. If something isn't specifically listed as a covered reason, well, it isn't covered. To simplify that, we're trying to say travel insurance only covers what is known as a covered reason. Travel insurance plans offer several different kinds of benefits, but those benefits will only compensate you if they're triggered by a reason covered in the plan. So how does this work in practice? If you get hurt on a trip and need to end it early, you might be left with hundreds of thousands of dollars in prepaid expenses. Not to mention, you'll need to reschedule your flight and most likely take a change fee. The good news, you're covered. Injury is a covered reason under your policy. Now that's a pretty easy and straightforward example. So we also want to take some time and get into what isn't covered. If this makes you want to go out and check your travel insurance plan's covered reasons, good. It's going to help you be the most informed. You can find the covered reasons in the plan documents, listed under each travel insurance benefit. What travel insurance doesn't cover? Now, what about asking yourself what travel insurance doesn't cover? This is a question many travelers often don't think to ask during the buying process, but it can sometimes be more revealing. Let's imagine our trip mentioned before. We ended our trip early because we were injured. But what happens if you decide to end your trip early because you're afraid of getting sick while traveling? And there's a new COVID-19 outbreak in the city on your itinerary. A virus you're afraid to contract isn't a covered reason. So it isn't going to be covered by your trip insurance plan unless you have trip interruption for any reason. It's impossible for us to name each and every scenario that isn't covered by all of the travel insurance plans out there. But there are similarities across the industry that we can bring to your attention. We feel as though by highlighting perils that aren't covered, we'll be giving you a powerful tool when you begin shopping. And here it goes. Travel insurance doesn't cover what's already happened. Retroactive coverage isn't a thing. If a hurricane is expected to land in your destination country within 72 hours of your trip, your policy will cover your trip cancellation. But if you buy a policy after the hurricane's been named, expecting it to help, no dice. It seems obvious, but don't forget, your plan only covers you for losses that occur after the policy's start date. That's typically the day after you buy. This means you can't buy a travel protection plan after a named event. You have to have the plan in place ahead of time. Travel insurance doesn't cover a trip that was canceled by the supplier. If your tour operator canceled your trip and didn't refund your plan, you probably aren't covered. This isn't something we saw much of until the COVID-19 crisis. Tour operators, also known as travel suppliers, canceled organized trips and didn't refund travelers. In many cases, travelers who had insurance weren't covered. Those who were covered had cancel for any reason travel insurance, also known as CFAR. And with G1G, you can look at our flex plans. Tour operators offer travel insurance when organizing a trip. If they cancel a trip for reasons not covered by the traveler's trip insurance plan and refuse to refund travelers, insurance companies won't cover it. They view it as the responsibility of the travel supplier. Is this fair? Not always, especially for small travel suppliers in developing countries who often have to make hard decisions. But it protects travel insurance companies from misuse of their plans. Now, hear us out. If travel suppliers could schedule trips, encourage their clients to buy insurance, and cancel while keeping the money and never providing the trip, then travel insurance would be significantly more expensive. Travel insurance doesn't cover fear of travel. Next on our list of what is not covered, fear of travel. It happened with Zika virus. It happened with COVID-19. It's happened when travel advisories have gone up for various countries. People were afraid to travel, with good reason, but fear of getting sick isn't covered by travel insurance plans. You can't have coverage for something that hasn't happened to you, regardless of the probability. I find myself repeating myself a lot in this post, and for that I'm sorry, but cancel for any reason is the solution here as well. Now, let's consider pre-existing medical conditions. Pre-existing conditions are excluded from coverage, but there's a loophole. There is a waiver you can get that removes that exclusion. There are two types of models for pre-existing condition coverage. You must buy your plan within 7 to 21 days of your first trip payment, and you must be well enough to travel at the time you buy.
A doctor must be able to verify your health. No armchair experts here. You must buy your plan by your final trip payment date. Again, you must be well enough to travel at the time you buy the plan. And many plans that offer the waiver of this pre-existing condition exclusion require you to cover the full cost of your trip. And that would be any prepaid, non-refundable expenses that you put down. But not all require this. So, pre-existing medical conditions are an exclusion, but there is ample opportunity to get around it and have coverage if you know how to shop for it. If you miss the 7 to 21 day window, find a plan that only requires you to cover it by the day that you make your final payment. Travel insurance doesn't usually cover pets. All right, now let's move on to talk about our pets. Only a few travel insurance plans cover pets in any capacity. If your pet is traveling with you and is in a cage below the cabin, you won't have coverage for any losses or injuries unless specified by the plan. Many plans specifically exclude this from coverage under the baggage and personal effects section. Listen, we love our pets here at G1G. We've got a good old pup named Sergeant Peppers who keeps everyone smiling in our virtual meetings. For Sergeant Pepper's owner, Zubair, he matters a heck of a lot. When planning trips, Zubair considers travel insurance plans that offer cancellation and interruption should something happen to Peppers. For trips where he takes Sergeant Peppers along, he makes sure there is some sort of emergency medical coverage for pets available on that plan. But he doesn't rely solely on this coverage as it's limited to a few $100s. He buys pet insurance for that. If you love your pets like we do here, you'll want to make sure you can add a pet bundle to your plan. Kennel and boarding fees are often covered if you are late arriving home for reasons that are covered by the plan, but it's only up to a certain dollar amount, usually around $100. Where to find exclusions in your plan documents. Learning what isn't covered is a great place to start when buying a plan. By learning what isn't covered up front, the rest of the plan becomes easier to wrap your head around. There are always dedicated sections within the document that explicitly outline what isn't covered. This can be a standalone section entitled Exclusions, Exclusions and Limitations, or simply Limitations. It may seem like there are a lot of gray areas in travel insurance, but there really aren't. If it isn't explicitly stated as covered in your plan, it's safest to assume you don't have coverage for that. If you're unsure of something, be sure to talk to customer service and get answers. While coverage can never be guaranteed and must always be reviewed by claims, you deserve to know what is and what isn't covered by trip insurance, according to the plan documents, before you buy.
If you're in the market for trip insurance, you're probably wondering when's the best time to buy your plan. And that's a great question. There are several important coverages that are only available during a certain period of time. So you'll want to pick the best time to buy your plan to maximize its effectiveness. Travel insurance is never retroactive, meaning you can't buy coverage for something that's already happened. This is one of the main reasons why we suggest buying your plan at the time you make your first booking or payment. There are plenty of other reasons why we recommend buying coverage at first payment, like pre-existing medical conditions, cancel for any reason coverage, and coverage for supplier bankruptcy. Those specific benefits are time sensitive, which means they can only be bought within a certain number of days from the day you put your deposit or first payment for the trip. In some cases, pre-existing conditions can be covered as long as you purchase your plan by final payment date. Now, you might be saying, but what about the cost? I just paid for a trip deposit and I can't afford very much. There's a way around that. You can buy your plan and only cover the amount of what you've already paid. Then, pay the additional premium as you make additional trip payments. Or, you can buy a plan that does not have a full trip cost requirement. Set the trip cost to $0 and you can lock in important coverages for pre-existing medical conditions. If you want to buy cancel for any reason, lock it in by first covering the amount you paid up front and add to your insurance coverage every time you make a payment. That way, you're making payments on your trip insurance plan just like you are for your trip. However, you must remember that you do not get trip cancellation coverage if you do not insure any trip costs, and many CFAR plans can only be purchased if you cover the full cost of your trip. In all sincerity, we want you to have coverage in case something pops up. But we understand that not everyone budgeted for travel insurance up front. Here's a list of time frames within which you can buy coverage. 1. At the time of your first trip payment. 2. Anytime before your scheduled departure. And 3. After you begin your trip. If you buy travel insurance at the time of first trip payment, you'll have coverage for pre-existing conditions and supplier bankruptcy. And you'll have the option to buy cancel for any reason. If you wait until final payment and need pre-existing conditions coverage, buy a plan that offers that time frame like those available through Trawick International. Just know that you won't have cancel for any reason coverage. Finally, if you forgot to buy travel insurance, you can buy travel medical insurance instead to at least ensure that you have emergency medical expense and evacuation coverage. The best thing to do is buy coverage as soon as you can. It maximizes the effectiveness of your policy. Insure as much of the trip cost as you can afford. That way, if your trip passes the refund period and you must cancel, you're covered for that dollar amount in regards to trip cancellation. Choosing a travel insurance plan can seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be. That's why we put together a few recommendations that'll help guide you along the way. Understand your needs. Self-awareness is the key to living a happy life. We hear it all the time from social scientists and psychology experts. This also applies to planning travel. You want to know what your needs are when buying a trip insurance policy. If you have pre-existing medical conditions, a disability, or a psychiatric condition, you want to keep that in mind when buying your plan. Don't buy anything that works against your needs, and take your time to understand the coverage applied. For example, psychiatric conditions are not usually covered by your plan unless you've been hospitalized for the condition. Let's say you have severe anxiety that sometimes forces you to cancel events. If you need to care for your anxiety and stay home, you'll want to make sure you have a CFAR plan. But if you're hospitalized for your anxiety and can no longer go on the trip, certain plans will cover you. It can be hard navigating insurance with pre-existing medical conditions, disabilities, or psychiatric conditions. There are ways to make the best of travel insurance plans by purchasing things like cancel for any reason, bundles, or add-ons. Additionally, there are policies specific to travelers with disabilities that often serve as a best fit medically. Do a quick financial and travel risk assessment. A quick financial risk assessment can tell you what you can afford to lose, if anything. If you've budgeted and saved for your trip, chances are you can't afford to lose those dollars to buy another if you had to cancel. And not many of us have an extra $100,000 lying around for an emergency medical evacuation from a foreign country. Once you leave the US and are no longer traveling domestically, the cost of emergency medical evacuation skyrockets. By considering what the risks are and what you can genuinely afford, you'll have a much better idea of what type of plan you're best suited for. Make sure you cover the types of activities you like to partake in. If you're an extreme skier, make sure the trip protection plan you buy doesn't exclude backcountry or extreme skiing. If you plan on skydiving, make sure you buy a plan that covers that. If museums and guided tours are your thing, most plans cover any illness or injury resulting from that. But it never hurts to check. The activities you like to do say a lot about your travel style. And there's always a travel insurance plan out there if your adventure style is a little on the extreme side. make sure you confirm that these activities are in fact covered before you buy. Let our AI do the heavy lifting for you. When shopping for travel insurance, AI can complete your travel and financial risk assessment. It can take a look at your trip details, expenses, and travel style to match you with travel protection plans that make the most sense for you. It can give you a plan that actually works. G1G is pioneering AI in the industry. Itera, our artificial intelligence bot that helps you get the most out of your travel insurance plan, is designed to consider your trip type, travel preferences, adventure style, and much more to help fit you with what best covers you. It'll help you find the best insurance plan. Does that mean you learned all of this for nothing? Well, no. Knowledge never hurts, but Itera can simplify the buying process and tell you what is and isn't covered up front. Easy peasy. Filing a travel insurance claim and what to expect. If you're watching this video, chances are you're preparing to file a travel insurance claim. The process is similar to any other insurance you may have used in the past. You buy the insurance. After the insurance is effective, something like a car accident or injury happens. You file a claim and submit proof of the losses, say receipts or a police report. The travel insurance is no different. But let's cut to the chase and answer the important questions you have regarding the next travel insurance claim. How long does it take a travel insurance claim to be paid? One of the most popular questions we get is this: how long does it take a travel insurance claim to process? A travel insurance claim is processed between 15 to 45 days on average. The amount of time it takes depends on several factors. One of them is often the traveler's ability to provide the necessary receipts, invoices, and documentation for their claim. But sometimes it's a bit more than that, like what we've seen during the COVID-19 crisis. Claims departments are dealing with a massive amount of claims, so it can take a bit longer. Patience, young grasshopper. All jokes aside, it can be pretty frustrating to have a long claim adjudication. Here are some general rules of thumb that can help you set reasonable expectations and get timely results. Provide a clear summary of what happened and why you're filing your claim. Include dates, times, and locations of the event. Save any and all documentation. That includes itemized receipts, invoices, and cancellation notices from airlines, cruise lines, and tour operators. Get proof of loss from anyone you can. If your things were stolen, file a police report and ask for copies. Submit everything you have when you file your claim. Not sure if it belongs? Submit it anyway. Every receipt counts. Call your 24-hour emergency assistance if you are in need of medical care. They will often arrange for direct billing. File your claim as soon as possible upon arrival. File your claim online to avoid snail mail wait times. Buy travel insurance from a company that offers claims advocacy and excellent customer service. What happens if my claim is approved? If your claim is approved and you're worried about receiving your payments as fast as possible, listen up. After you file your claim, you're given the option for direct deposit or a mailed check. Direct deposit is always faster. Once your claim is approved, you'll receive an email notification that gives you the details. It'll state the approved amount and when you should expect to see it deposited into your account. If you choose snail mail, it'll let you know when you should expect to see the check in your mailbox. What happens if my claim isn't approved? If your claim is denied, you'll receive a detailed explanation as to why. You'll also receive instructions as to what's next. Travel insurance companies legally must give you the option to appeal your claim. It's your right and it's their duty. But we'll get into the appeals process in just a minute. First, let's go over a few common reasons claims are denied. The known event or peril is not a covered reason within your plan. The known event or peril is an exclusion within your plan. Exclusions are things that your travel insurance will not cover. And these exclusions are available at a glance before you buy. You sent the incorrect details. Now, this happens a lot. travelers share misinformation that actually harms their claim. If that's the case, an appeal is going to be your best option. When asked to provide further documentation, you didn't follow up. If you did not submit enough receipts and documentation for your travel insurance, you'll have between 30 and 60 days to follow up and provide the documentation before the claims department closes your claim. Now that's only if they don't hear from you at all. If you are having trouble hunting down receipts, let the claims department know that you're working on it, and they can keep your claim open for review. The incident took place before your policy's start date. This should go without saying, but remember, travel insurance only works for the things that have not happened yet. You received a full refund for your canceled trip from the travel supplier, tour operator, or cruise line. If you received a full refund for canceling your trip, you won't be able to file a claim with travel insurance. It'd be like making a claim on your auto insurance policy twice for the same accident. Claims advocacy and appeals. Now, after you've received your denied claim, you might be wondering what's next. You're not happy with the results and you want to talk to someone. Every company has a customer service department, but their hands are usually tied when it comes to claims. You would have to speak directly to your claims manager for answers, but that is if you buy directly from the travel insurance company. G1G offers a unique claims advocacy program free of charge. We want insurance to work for you. We'll walk you through and take a look at your claim and try to clear the air. If there was something you missed, we'll help you add it to the claim and file the appeal. If we believe the insurance company didn't consider your claim fairly, we will resubmit an appeal and go to bat for you. We can't guarantee that your claim will be paid, but we can guarantee that we'll help you every step of the way. But remember, even if you're on your own, you don't have to give up just because your claim was denied. We actually recommend that you don't if you believe that you have some valid claim. Sometimes you can provide additional information that changes the legitimacy of the claim. Filing an appeal can help you get your point across, and it forces the company to take a second look. To do all that, you'll need to contact your state insurance department. Your state regulates insurance, which is one reason why policies are sold at a state level. If you feel as though you were not treated fairly, you can file a complaint with the state. Once the complaint is filed, you can file a suit against the insurance company that will be processed in small claims court. Remember, be sure you have all necessary documentation. In this video, we're going to give you 8 hacks and tips for buying the best travel insurance plan for your upcoming trip. Here at G1G, we've been in the business a long time. We know a thing or two about how to approach buying the right plan. As a matter of fact, we help people like you choose the best plan for their trip every day. With these 8 tips, you'll feel confident and ready to buy before your next trip. Tip number 1, compare your options. The best way for travelers to find the best fit is to compare several plans from several different travel insurance providers. This can be done using a third-party site like G1G, where we offer several plans in one place. It helps you get a bird's eye view of your options and tells you what is and is not covered. Don't look to just one company for all your travel insurance needs. It forces you to limit your options. When you use a third-party comparison site, you get the most options in the fewest clicks. It'll keep it simple without forcing you to visit multiple websites. Number 2, pay a little extra for cancel for any reason travel insurance. Prior to 2020, we wouldn't necessarily recommend this advice for everyone. Post-COVID-19 crisis, change of plans. Cancel for any reason travel insurance can cost you 40% more in the travel insurance premium, but it can save you a lot of money if you end up having to cancel, especially in this uncertain climate. All you have to do is buy your plan within 21 days of your first trip deposit, cover the full cost of your trip, and cancel 2 days before you were scheduled to leave. It comes in handy if there are border closures, travel advisories, or if you just become afraid to travel because heightened cases are in your destination country. This type of plan is best suited for travelers who are investing in travel, and it isn't usually necessary for trips back home to see good old mom and pop. Number 3, insure only non-refundable trip costs. This is perhaps the biggest tip we can give you. Do not over-insure your plan. I repeat, do not over-insure your plan. Over-insuring your plan means that you included refundable expenses into your trip costs. This can raise your premium, causing you to pay extra for something you don't really need. For example, if you're going on a cruise that cost $2,000 and $500 of those dollars is refundable in cash, you'll want to only insure $1,500. This will keep you from spending extra money for your insurance plan. Moral of the story, if it's not refundable, cover it. If it is refundable, don't cover it. Number 4, check your visa requirements. Some countries require you to have a certain amount of medical coverage to visit for trips of any length. If you have to obtain a visa for travel, you'll most likely need proof of insurance. Check those requirements before you travel. Number 5, if you can't afford to insure the full cost of your trip right away, start with a $0 trip cost. If you didn't budget for travel insurance when you were planning your trip, you might be having an oh moment. Ideally, you want to buy your insurance at the time you make your first trip payment. But if you forgot to budget it in, it's okay. You can lock in coverage affordably and add your non-refundable trip costs as you go. Basically, you're putting a down payment on your travel insurance. If you cover $0 in trip costs at the time you made your first payment, you won't have trip cancellation coverage, but you'll lock in pre-existing conditions coverage. You can later add your first trip payment and any subsequent payments after that until you're finished paying for your trip. This will allow you to pay for your travel insurance premium as you go along. It's important that we note that there are plans that require you to cover the full cost of your trip in order for you to have pre-existing condition coverage and cancel for any reason coverage. For those plans, you have 7 to 21 days from the time you make a payment to add it to your premium. If cost is a checkpoint for you, make sure you look for a plan that has flexibility in how you buy. Number 6, save receipts and documents. We can't say this enough. Save receipts from your travel bookings to small items as you go. If you file a police report or receive cancellation notices from hotels for covered reasons, make sure you keep a copy of those as well. If you have to file a claim, you'll be glad you kept them. Number 7, buy your plan early. Travel insurance has time-sensitive benefits like cancel for any reason. In order to have the exclusion for pre-existing conditions removed, you have to buy your plan by a specified time. Save yourself the trouble and buy your plan as soon as you can. If you're worried about the cost, remember tip number 5, insure as you go. Number 8, ask for help. Travel insurance shouldn't make your head spin. If you're struggling to understand coverage, reach out and ask for help. Any insurance company should be more than willing to answer complicated coverage questions. But they should also make you feel comfortable in asking for help. Don't settle for a company that doesn't make you feel valued and isn't willing to listen to your concerns. G1G has industry-leading customer service and claims support team members. We take the time to answer your questions and help you find the right fit. Reach out to us with questions with no obligation to buy.